welcome to day 3 of the 2020 Spring European Masters. Now, I'm Daniel Dracos, I guess in this case, as it says on the screen in front of me. And next to me is none other than Celtic Tiger himself. Now, I would have tried to pronounce your name, Tiger.
You're getting, like, honestly...
I got the first half. I get the first half.
Yeah.
But I'm not even going to try the last half. I won't disrespect you or your family legacy by even attempting to pronounce anything Irish, even remotely.
It's fair. I'll teach you some Irish later on in the cast, maybe. Maybe that'll help. Sounds like it'll definitely make it worse, but we'll lean that way anyway.
I mean, we don't know what form we're going to see today. Yeah. From the teams, from the cast, it's going to be a live, kind of evolving viewing experience, I think it's safe to say. But of course, we've already had 2 days of competition, and it's kind of shaped up the standings in what I think to be a pretty interesting way. A lot of the teams that I thought would kind of come out the gate swinging have been a little bit slower to start, and a lot of the teams that I may not have expected as much from, crazy to say this, but Mousesports have been stepping up and showing us a ton.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at Mousesports as potentially someone who will take their group quite heavily just because of the fact they have names in there like Leader, who we have seen pop off in previous European Masters, ex-champion there. So I guess for myself that's not hugely surprising, but it's certainly nice to see some of the region stepping up as a whole. I think Poland have had quite clean games in general as well, but having a look at some of yesterday's games would be quite interesting here, as we saw Mousesports specifically stepping up, Leader again, as we touched on, finding a lot of kills there, and even Tolkien on that team doing quite well.
Yeah, you can't not talk about him. And I think that's the thing that makes Leader such an exciting player, is that inevitably, because the way he plays, you have to focus in on him. You mentioned Tolkien, and I think Tolkien had a fantastic game, but the second Leader locks in Yasuo, it doesn't matter if Tolkien's 20-0. People are going to talk about Leader's Yasuo performance. That's just kind of the thing that happens when you focus in on Mousesports as a team. Other sides of the map, though, we got to see Jarvan coming back, bringing out the mages, no longer just the Heimerdinger that LEC fans may remember from back in the day of 2018 G2, but showing us so much more and shutting down a champion that I absolutely hate to play against in the Kalista, so frankly, I love to see it.
Yeah, I respect that. Honestly, Kalista is very rough to play against, but not only was it the Taliyah and the mage specialty coming from Jarvan, the Poppy specifically against that comp, because there was so many dashes, and obviously the Kalista specifically known for her dashes, shutting down a huge amount of what they wanted to do.
And intelligent picks on the fly like that are something that I just love to see in EU Masters. I feel like there's just so much more room for individual creativity and kind of regional metas that gives us a lot of picks that we might not see anywhere else. And of course, the last thing that we have to talk about, you may have loved to see it, you may have hated to watch it. I don't know how anyone's going to feel about this, but it is Fnatic versus the Energypot Wizards. This was a wild game. It was an experience.
It was entertaining. It was a spectacle. Ender and Quickshot filled the time with some great little stories they were given a lot of time to as well, as this game was relentless.
This video is actually tagged on YouTube, I believe, as an interview, just for the amount of time that Ender and Quickshot had to talk about. Because this game, I think they said it as the game ended. It was like a million Barons. You see Elder Dragon and Baron buff here on the back of Fnatic. You see like random running down the mid lane, and the thing that excites me more than anything is the potential to see more games like this in a weird way. Maybe that's masochistic of me, but I love crazy, chaotic, no holds barred, like put everything on the line style League of Legends, and you can really only get that in elimination matches and 50-minute games where a team has Elder Dragon and Baron at the same time and can't win. That's the two
when's
situations.
The last time you've seen a Baroned up, Elder Dragoned up team just lose because they straight up could not compete with the team fighting coming out from that Balkan side? I'm really interested to see what they bring out today as a result. If they can maybe clean up, make some of those decisions that little bit earlier, because they were in control for so long, Dracos.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to be able to see today if the Energypot Wizards can show us more of that flair as they go toe-to-toe with eSuba. Of course, later in the day, Fnatic Rising and Mousesports. This will be the last games that Group D plays this week. They'll be off tomorrow, so we'll close out the first round robin. And of course, over the course of the rest of the day, we're going to get to see more from Vodafone Giants and AGO Rogue, see if they can keep that win streak alive and going. And more UK scene with BTXL, and then rounding out with Gamers Origin and whiteinn Gamers. A lot of games I'm really excited to see, but I'm frankly glad we got the matchups to close out Group D, that we get to see more Energypot Wizards.
Yeah, I really want to see how that goes, and also if Fnatic Rising could somewhat redeem themselves after that game as well, going up against Mousesports, who will be... We're going to call them a more traditional opponent, ignoring all of Leader's picks for a second. We'll say maybe something a bit more standard, something a bit more of a known quantity for them.
I can't imagine we'll get a situation where we go Elder and Baron. And then in that sense,
Sure.
I think it will be more of a standard game. Maybe not more standard picks. Leader is that wild card, as you mentioned. But it's hugely important. When we talk about this first game, especially, the standings implications are big. Because if Energypot Wizards here, they're either tying for first if Fnatic can win later in the day, or they're getting a completely locked second, as we'll have a Fnatic that's at 1 and 2. And that's a situation that we did not really expect this team to be in. Balkans have always been a league that can kind of surprise, can kind of take a game or two, but has never really been contenders for the top of the table, and that could change in this tournament.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing. It's that the Balkans will be looking to shoot ahead of the UK here, which is obviously a big worry for the UK scene, as Fnatic Rising have traditionally been their best performing team in the European Masters.
And now as we check in on the ban phase so far, we see the Varus as well as the LeBlanc banned away from eSuba. Varus has been wildly popular so far in the tournament and a lot of the smaller leagues, and not just for the on-hit. We're seeing a lot of that lethality Varus coming out. The Senna going to be banned away as well. The Aphelios hasn't received any attention yet. Would not surprise me to see it picked very early in this draft.
Yeah, it makes sense. We've specifically seen a lot of Aphelios Thresh as well, so if it's not picked up in first rotation, if you do see maybe the priority going to Trundle or Azir, who've also been our big priority picks, you could see the response being the Aphelios Thresh.
Where exactly do the Energypot Wizards want to focus? Now, I really like the performance out of the bottom side of the map, as well as Lukezy, so I like that priority on the Thresh to set bot lane up for success and make sure that they're comfortable, that whiteinn can kind of be this playmaker. I feel like Thresh is in, honestly, such a solid spot in the meta right now, where in the past you were worried about him getting kind of bullied or pushed out. He just generally feels like a safe blind pick for the first time in a very long time, I would say.
Yeah, I genuinely think he fits in quite well. Good engage, disengage as well. I like taking the Aphelios away so you don't get the Aphelios Thresh, and then also locking the other high priority pick we were talking about, which was the Azir. I want to see then if Spooky leans towards the Trundle.
And I'll be honest, now I'm a little bit worried, because as much as I love the Thresh, giving up Aphelios and Azir, two of the best late game champions, probably the two best late game champions in the current meta, feels like a little bit of a risk. Now, eSuba, of course, have to get there, but those are two incredibly powerful picks. Energypot Wizards get the MF, which means they do get the MF Thresh lane, but I don't know if it's worth it.
You see, the thing is, though, it's VZZ's most played as Aphelios, second most played as the MF. So you could see this was coming for them. They expected the Aphelios lock-in. And also, you're probably leaning away from the Trundle as eSuba just because Jejky is such a carry-oriented player. And that's why you're also seeing Wizards holding off on that jungle pick, trying to see if they can counter it. But with red side for eSuba, I wouldn't even be surprised to see that the last lock-in for them.
Yeah, but now, of course, we see eSuba banning away some of the mid lane options, as that is the pick difference between the two teams so far. And we'll see maybe if Energypot Wizards want to ban away some of the supports, want to ban away some of that options, they could take away the Trundle themselves. Even if we don't expect it, obviously it is a good way to shut down that orange. Instead, it's the Tahm Kench. And frankly, I love this. Limiting Aphelios' options, his safety options, is always just a good way to shut him down. We've seen this champion, especially against top laners like GP, without a Tahm Kench, without a Braum, just kind of falter in late game fights.
Yeah, I was specifically noting the Braum here you'd want to get rid of, because of course that could stop the Ornn engage as well later on, but actually decides to get rid of the Trundle instead, so maybe leaning towards locking a tank themselves, maybe going to go towards the Sejuani or the like.
Yeah, and not worried about that from Jejky, it looks like having the same read that you did, that he's probably not the kind of player that would want to, or a different read than you would have, because they give the respect over to the Trundle. But now it is the Braum locked in, so mitigating the effectiveness of both the Ornn ultimate as well as the M ultimate. So a decent amount of pressure onto Rufus, as we now get to see the last two picks from the side of Energypot Wizards.
So we're looking at here, previously when they came up against the Azir, Lukezy locked that Corki. So that's why you see it banned away. The Ziggs also taken away, someone who can sit quite far back. Okay, gonna go for the Cassiopeia, so maybe pushing forward with aggression. And I specifically really like the Jarvan into Azir as well. You can engage through the wall.
Yeah, I love having just this many reliable forms of hard engage on the side of Energypot Wizards. I feel like they've found sustained damage in the Cassio. You've got the engage from the Jarvan, the Thresh, the Ornn as well. A lot of really fantastic tools to get things kicked off, but eSuba responding with a lease in for Jejky in the mid lane, or in the jungle, and that's something that you talked about, playing those more carry style junglers, trying to get the team rolling, trying to kind of make the highlight reels all on his own, and it lines up perfectly with what we expect from this player.
Okay, so I think both teams now locking relative comfort. One thing I do like from Wizards is their strength in a team fight, though. A lot of ways to engage, a lot of good zone control as well with Cassiopeia and MF, even Thresh as well. does leave eSuba maybe struggling in that regard, kind of relying on Jejky to maybe pull them ahead early, has some pushing lanes to help with that, so maybe we'll see Jejky going for a very aggressive run towards Spooky.
Spooky, though, a man who did have a pretty solid Jarvan performance up against the likes of Fnatic, so maybe can do a little bit more here as we get a bit further into this. But for now, getting Lukezy. I'm getting informed that it is Lukezy and not Lukezy. All right, apologies. I did this with Razor K for an entire season, so apologies to all the fans out there. I'll get the pronunciations right as we go further. But two very explosive comps, as you noted, solid scaling on both sides, good, better engaged on the side to Energypot Wizards, but you got an Azir on the opposite end. So we might be set up for another one of those games that we said we weren't sure if we wanted.
Yeah, I think that the worry as well is that Braum can deny a lot of their engage, so maybe that's the way they play around it, just try to deny engage and have Jejky kind of dictate a lot of the plays on their terms.
For now, though, we are getting into game. Of course, our first game of the day and the last game both these teams will get to play in the first round robin. So now keeping our eyes on where both these teams are going to go in the early game, and especially I think Jejky's early jungle pathing. If you said we want to see him carry, we need to see where he's going to put that attention, where he wants to focus to set his team up for success.
Yeah, I think that's it. You should have the push in with the Azir as well. That's something that Azir is picked so often for. The fact that he can get really early priority on top of being a great scaling pick, being able to team fight and 1-3-1. There's very little that Azir can't do.
Yeah, he does. In my honest opinion, Tiger, he feels a little bit too much right now. Maybe needs to be toned down. I think there's so many counter picks going around out there, but none of them feel quite as reliable as Azir himself. But now we see from eSuba potentially either trying to get a read on what the enemy team is going to do or just going to go for a late invade here, but a fantastic ward from the side of the Energypot Wizards will spot this out, and they're going to get perfect information on where Lee Sin is starting.
May actually turn into a vertical jungle here as well, as Jarvan starts on the top side. And you do see, as you were noting, that's the red buff being taken away there. So this makes sense. Again, early aggression is the expectation from eSuba, starting that off right from minute 1.
And now see what the follow-up is. Of course, Lee Sin, level 2, could look to go for a more aggressive play. You've got Azir hovering down towards the bottom side, maybe trying to bait Cassio forward, but this is going to be spotted out perfectly. Jejky knows it, and we'll just go back to his top side. So denying the vertical jungling, just wants to double down on the advantage of taking that camp away, and that's going to make things a little bit more difficult for Spooky here as he starts to clear towards the bottom side. There's not going to be a red buff waiting for him.
Yeah, he's actually doing a full clear of his top side, so trying to pick up as much as possible. Is aware, of course, of the red buff missing, so might just be taking that loss and trying to reset the full jungle there. Makes a lot of sense here. He's actually going to play forward.
Keeping your eye. We've got this. Ooh, this is cheeky. All right, I'm never a fan of trading double red for double blue, but I like that Spooky's willing to commit to it.
Jejky's not having it, though. He's on the way.
But they've got lane priority on the bottom side, so Jejky, if he goes over the wall here, might just be in trouble. Spooky waiting back. Jejky saw whiteinn, but a little bit early on the hook. I don't think they had to commit there. He's just going to walk away. Now it's potentially an awkward smite steal. You wanted action. We might just have a straight up 4v4 on the bottom side of the map here in a moment.
Okay, it's going to be Jejky getting that for the level 3, and it's just going to be the whole of Wizards having to back off there. Good team rotations on both sides, but again, I think just a little bit overzealous with the Thresh hook, as you noted, also the flag and drag. Both skill shots missing means that Jejky can walk away there relatively unscathed.
Yeah, I think in their heads they had the moment lined up. They were going to land the hook. Everything was going to connect together. They're going to walk out of there, laugh straight to the bank with that nice first blood money. But it just turned into a very awkward exchange. And now there is no Demacian standard here, so the flag and drag is not available. Top.
You can see this is the Azir push we were talking about, trying to come down towards these plays. But Spooky took the crab pretty damn quickly, so got out of there.
Yeah, was a little nervous when the Demacian standard came down and was not available, but still manages to make it out quite comfortably. And as you mentioned in the mid lane, Azir just continues to push forward, and you know, honestly good on the side of eSuba to use this pressure to contest some of the early aggressive moves from the side of Energypot Wizards. But we can see part of the reason why VZZ likes this MF so much is just the sheer amount of damage, if you line up those double ups perfectly, is pretty oppressive.
Yeah, you see, knowing again that they were giving over the Aphelios, they had this response ready to go, so it was a good read from Wizards, knowing that they have something that can still get the priority down there. And also, again, you have to remember they put heavy priority on this Thresh. You're seeing whiteinn use that, trying to make those early aggressive plays alongside his jungler.
Now we see Jejky moving to the top side. Very aggressive moment here, but W's already been used, so Ornn no longer unstoppable. Is going to dash forward. Jejky's got a bit of damage down. He manages to land the kick as well. The flash out does mean that klowny will be alive, but a solid gank coming in from Jejky does mean they have flash advantage on the top side of the map.
Yeah, and while you generally talk about top lane, especially when you see Ornn locked in as somewhere where nothing happens, Aatroxes have consistently been able to get slight advantages, which means if, for whatever reason, your jungler has a little spare time to throw into that island, he will just swing by and you should be able to make something happen, at least just getting the summoner in this case.
And it sets you up for more plays in the future. Of course, good news for klowny is that he does have the summoner spellbook, so he will have access to something in the fights to come. It will not be a flash, it will not be a TP, but he should have at least some kind of combat option up and available in the 1v1 matchup. But CS, I'll be honest, I think klowny is doing a better job than a lot of the other Ornn players that we've seen in this tournament. We've seen a lot of 10, 15 CS deficits very early on from a number of top laners here. So it feels like klowny's doing a solid job of holding his own thus far. And Energypot Wizards say, if you won't fight us, we'll just fight Dragon. They have to fight something, Tyke, or they're going to get bored.
Yeah, I mean, they actually had the time there with the Azir only just coming back to lane. They still have the priority in the bot lane from the MF Thresh. Actually, a massive CS lead opening up for VZZ down there in comparison to Dany. Getting pretty comfortable in that lane. Means that they're able to pick themselves up a dragon for free. Wonder now whether the call is to rotate up for the Herald when it spawns, or how long they want to maintain this lane that they're doing so well in.
It'll show us a lot about the team mentality, I think. Safe to say, if they try to extend these individual advantages, as the hook does land. Unbreakable has been used, and now they're fishing for the follow-up. That's the Gravitum, as well as the Onslaught now coming in from the Aphelios. They continue to push forward for this play. Thresh the one that I've got my eye on, but it looks like they are going to walk back in. Sonic Wave is going to connect. A bit questionable there. Braum flashes forward for the setup, but now Spooky's on the way in, and oh no, who's overcommitted? But eSuba, the quick flash down to flash flag, and Dragon's clean from Spooky. TP coming in on the backside, though. It's going to be Azir as well as Cassio moving right into the face of the enemy. And oh no, a tragic Emperor's Divide means that nothing is going to happen there. But Cassio and Azir both TP'd in with no mana. What?
It's the zoning potential. You got them. You know, they felt threatened. Oh dear, there was a whole myriad of unfortunate occurrences around that, but we'll take it back to the good parts of that play, which was, in fairness, Spooky's response was very good. And here is them using the aggressive plays they've been making work. The Thresh, the MF. Yes, you take a lot of damage, not a major concern. You spot out Jejky, start playing back. Jejky lands a good Q here, a difficult Q, but then decides, I deserve a kill off that. I'm gonna hard commit, which is the mistake, because Spooky is right there, ready to respond from having picked him up. Good flash towards him. Managed to get him the knock-up. And then, as you noted, very low mana mid laners come in here. So, random. Also unfortunate with the timing of that ultimate means that not too much happens.
But to their credit, I only caught it at the end when they were out of mana. They did both show up in ultimate, which is sometimes the most you can hope for from some of these champions this early in the game, but definitely not kind of the saving grace that they were looking for. And while top lane remains an island, mid laners are clearly keen to get back down to the bottom site. But I want to go back to something that you mentioned earlier, Tyke, which is when are we going to see the lane swap? And it looks like Energypot Wizards have now decided to move their lane up to the top side in response to the move from eSuba.
Yes, and importantly, it's as Rift Herald spawning. That's what you were waiting for with Dragon down. That's the major focus in terms of objectives. And Jejky playing very aggressive. I don't think it's going to have deterred him that last play. Is right on top of the Herald looking for a pick.
Oh, level 5 J4, level 5 Thresh. Definitely not the easiest targets for Lee Sin, as they both have Escape or Interrupt, but not going to need it. And so now, eSuba are going to be the team to start up the Herald. It is notoriously difficult to start this up and secure, but the pressure on the top side does mean that if Energypot Wizards want to contest, they have to be willing to give up a bit of CS. They are moving over now, so even if they are able to grab the Herald on the side of eSuba, they might have to pay some kind of price for it. Lukezy stepping forward, won't get anything else, and honestly, well played, very slow, very controlled from the side of eSuba, not to get baited into that fight or to give up anything in exchange for that Herald.
And it was also the earlier rotation that even though they've been pushed in consistently by the MF Thresh, by the time MF Thresh arrived to lane, Herald was already started. They were pushed into tower, they weren't able to come respond, so the timing was just better by eSuba making the call for the Herald. And Wizards, you were the ones ahead. You should have been able to make that call first.
Yeah, but I mean, at the back end of that play, it just feels like eSuba were the ones to pull the trigger first, the ones to swap first, and they get the benefit from it. Now, the downside is, as we've mentioned repeatedly now, it's still a 30 CS deficit for Aphelios. This is the champion that we're talking 2-3 items before we really look at him to be a big part of the game, and he is well behind that clock now. At 55 CS approaching 10 minutes is pretty abysmal. So Dany needs to pull it together. eSuba need to find more resources to pump into this Aphelios if they are going to stay on clock to contest some of these fights.
Now, pulling it back a little bit further, I want to talk about some of the regional strengths that we've consistently seen from the Balkans, which is their team fighting. They've always been very good at forcing those, even if you go as far back as the very first EU Masters, KlickTech, when they took that game off Origin, it was entirely off being extremely coordinated, finding those plays, and just making giant 5v5s happen in the mid to late game. Their map play has been sometimes a little questionable, specifically now looking towards Wizards. In that Fnatic Rising game, they were in control after good team fights, and then it got delayed really heavily due to some maybe mismanaged calls. That's what we're going to generously call it, Dracos.
Sure, got it.
I'm seeing eSuba potentially punishing that, having picked up the Herald there when they basically had no right to, and it's a good call from eSuba to kind of maybe pull at some of the weaknesses we're starting to see from this style.
And definitely they have enough tape with the 50-minute game to kind of identify some of those opportunities, some of those weak points. But still, Energypot Wizards looking ready to force a play on the bottom side of the map, trying to use the advantage that they have built up here. But it's also important to note that there's not a big itemization advantage for MF, despite the massive CS advantage. It is still BF Sword boots 2, Doran's. Yes, there's an extra longsword, but at this stage of the game, it's not going to be make or break in any kind of multi-man skirmish. So solid so far from eSuba to stay in it, to stay contending in terms of itemization.
Yeah, I think because the Aphelios was the one who picked up the kill on their side, that helps even that CS discrepancy somewhat. Still going to be probably MF with the gold lead, but not quite as severe as it might look from CS numbers alone.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, now we get the engage. Good input buffer coming in from the Braum there too. All right as though it comes out. Now Jarvan's into the backside, but there's random. Not going to hit anybody. And oh no, that's one that's going to haunt him for moments to come, because now Lukezy's coming into the backside. The flash over the wall, it's too clean, it's too perfect. The Cassio dream moment now. Lukezy uncontested on the backside. Robocop trying to buy as much space as he can for the rest of the team. Jejky now looking for the kick in. The backstep from Lukezy getting faster and faster, but still locked up. And Dany finishing the job. A Moonlight Vigil for Cassio right on time. eSuba taking down the team fighting masters from the Balkans themselves.
Very well played from eSuba, eventually managing to find it. Yes, we're seeing some dodgy Azir ults. It doesn't matter if you're making the right decisions after the fact. Azir goes down, they stay in it, they can kind of disengage, re-engage. Lukezy completely split off to the side, means that you pick off people one by one, but immediately using the Herald, now that you have the numbers advantage, now that you have the pressures advantage, gonna get you probably first tower, and definitely this dragon as well.
And this is huge for eSuba. I'm going to be honest. When I saw their last few games' performance, I thought that they might end up being the punching bag of this group. And it happens to some teams, and you never want it to happen to yours. But a fight like this played so well, it gets me hyped for this team.
It was a good, solid engage there. Random. In fairness, at least it was flashed that time, and he did draw out the exhaust. So we're gonna say it wasn't dreadful. We're gonna say that anyway. But either way, you get klowny jumped on immediately. That's the good cohesion we're looking for from them. Lukezy managed to find a pick on the side, but as a result is completely split off from the team. Robocop actually zoning off almost all 3 other members by himself with that Aatrox ultimate and those Qs. Means that then, by the time they walk forward, the rest of the Wizards bot lane isn't able to join the fight. And again, it's just eSuba with the stronger zone control at this point.
Yeah, and VZZ, all that farming that he's been doing, how fantastic he's been about pressuring in lane, just isn't amounting to much, because Aphelios is now ahead of the curve in itemization, 2-0-2, and you got to give credit to Dan and the rest of the team here. Just a single team fight turns the game on its head so very quickly, and a 1.3k gold lead is more than enough to give them a decent advantage. However, Robocop will be forced to ult here on the bottom side, and we see some aggressive pings going into the top lane. It looks like they are calling for the swap, so they do want to pressure out here on bottom side, as Dragon's still 4 minutes away, so it looks like just trying to get out of this lane against Aphelios.
You can see now Jejky's just looking for more, gonna now start roaming with random. This is a strategy we've seen with the Azirs when you have these aggressive junglers. I believe Madislaw on the Azir showcased it as well, where you just send the Azir with your aggressive jungler, try to make big 4-man plays around your bot lane, and you can see that VZZ is a very hyped player from the Balkans, is someone who's been talked about this up-and-coming player, now has more experience behind him, but is struggling to find these openings simply due to eSuba as a team helping shut him down.
Now the Ornn ult coming in, it looks like just to clear the wave. There's the Jarvan ult though. Robocop does not have the Umbral Dash available quite yet, but will flash away at the right time to dodge out on the death sentence there. But now the TP coming in, random. One more try at these Azir ults. It's not going to go for it this time. No reason to push for too much as they do get some summoners out there.
I think taking it easy, you know, you misfire once, you might go, okay, that was unfortunate. You misfire twice and you go, you know what? I'm going to let my team engage, and I'm going to follow up next time. This is how we're playing.
Let someone else hit the first CC. I'll be the guy that gets to sweep 4 people after the Aphelios ult. Well, Energypot Wizards trying to respond with a bit of a play of their own. They don't really have that much pressure in mid lane, and I think we're starting to see some of the disadvantages that you mentioned earlier about the Energypot Wizards style, where it does feel like they don't necessarily have the best control of their creep waves. They aren't necessarily set up to make the next kind of big play across the map, whereas eSuba are clearly already onto the Rift Herald, already reassigning their laners, already going to the next move, and that's paying dividends here as they're now 2k up and have the Herald.
Yeah, you can see how much difficulty they're having responding to all this early pressure coming out from eSuba. Now, I wouldn't count Wizards out by any means yet. They're very good at finding those fights, even in difficult spots. But for now, it's going to be eSuba.
Well, there you go. Follow up on the CC with a clean Cassio. Oh my god, Lukezy! Not quite enough. It's not enough to stop 5 players at this point in the game, but does buy a bit more time for the rest of the team. Spooky using the stopwatch there. We're caught out, but is going to be able to dash away 1, 2, and not a third. On the Darkened Blade there, the tower will go down in the meantime. So Lukezy may have landed the cleanest ult I have seen in a long time, but sadly it does not amount to much of anything.
Yeah, and in the meantime, Jejky's just farming away, continuing that gold advantage. So you can see eSuba, yes, the plays are actually starting to become a little bit more difficult, but it doesn't matter because of the correct call map-wise, they're still coming out on top.
And solid position. And we take a look back at this one, and the setup here from eSuba. Once again, there's fumbles, as we've seen pretty repeatedly here, but the idea is right, as you mentioned, and even if Lukezy lands that clutch ult, no one else is around to respond and makes for an easy setup.
Exactly, that's the point you have to look at. Look at where MF is, look at where Thresh is. They were completely focused on that bot lane tower while the Herald was on the enemy side. So they just used that to force open the mid lane, and yes, they do end up getting Dany caught. Yes, it was a great ult from Lukezy, but at the end of the day, it's still eSuba in the driver's seat. Getting closer to a potential turn for Wizards, though.
Yeah, all we need are a few more items under the belt. Of course, still waiting for the Ornn to get a few more levels before he can start to upgrade his allies. And additionally, the shutdown goes on to the Jarvan, the full tank Jarvan. So while he has Gargoyle Stone Plate, while he will be unkillable, sadly, it will not be more damage into the hands of the Energypot Wizards. And Lukezy looks like he is fishing for an opportunity here, or just not feeling comfortable to approach the Azir anymore. It gets a lot easier once you're out of that laning phase to just mitigate this matchup.
Yeah, you can see Azir pretty comfortable, sitting quite far back, has a lot of...
BZZ, that's not what you want to do. Of course, a little bit of a fumble because they don't land the concussive blows, but it doesn't matter.
Here's the TP, though.
At least it has ran away. They've split the entire team. The Thresh is now going in. The follow-up will not be there, but Lukezy on the backside. The ult flash forward, but now the push back in, and finally, Random gets his time to shine, but Jejky coming back in. Over the wall, here comes the Ornn ultimate. That's going to be big. That's the knockup. That's the mitigation of any further fight. But whiteinn has been caught out, isolated, and taken down. A messy brawl on the bottom side of the map.
I must say, though, this is very similar to what I saw in that Fnatic game. Now, while it was a complete mess, their shining light in that game, while everyone had been talking to us before this tournament about how strong BZZ is as AD carry, and I think a lot of teams are focusing that as a result, Lukezy has been quietly building up a lot of these leads. In the previous game, we saw him doing quite well later on in the game as the Corki. In this game, is finding little openings as the Cassiopeia to keep himself scaling.
And well, similarly, we saw against Leader that while after the early game, things went downhill very quickly, he was the benefactor of 2 kills early on. The Cassio play was solid, so maybe we need to be keeping our eyes on Lukezy as we get later in the game. That might change, though, if he overcommits into a Braum.
You say that?
He might go for the 2-for-1. It's not an overcommitment. Oh, no. You're trapped there with the Cassio, but the creeps are going to be more than enough allies there for Rufus to get the kill in the end. Spooky will clean it up and make it the 2-for-1 overall, but clean movement. Sadly, the creeps were just a little bit too much there for our boy Lukezy.
But he is doing the important things for his team. He's actually giving them some objectives back. He's giving them some openings, giving them a numbers advantage where they really weren't going to get one. So this is Lukezy finding those openings for the team, dragging them back to the point where we can go, okay, what do we want to do? Big team fight. Let's get us there. Let's avoid them just completely running us down as this early team. So first off, We see the play here. The Braum shield is actually faced the wrong way for how Lukezy moved. Needed to be facing it down and left. Instead, it's just faced straight left, so all he has to do is path around it. Gets a lot of easy combos off. So, for those wondering why Dracos thought it was going to be a lot easier for them to defend themselves, there you go. The ability was there.
Yes, true. Some small executional fumbles, as has been the name of the game, but also just credit to Lukezy,
Yes.
clearly knowing his damage output better than I did, and able to clean up that kill quite confidently. Still, I think, giving a bit of disrespect to the potential for someone to be there, but I respect the gusto anyway, Tig.
Yeah, I think the energy's there, right? You want to go for these big... Yeah, got to appreciate the vibes, Dracos, okay?
Yeah. The vibes have been appreciated. I like the all-out aggression. Straight vibing. Straight going for the 1v1. Turn it into a 2v1. Who cares? That's the Lukezy style. And respect, Croatian mid laners, they've got a reputation to uphold. And if dying on side lanes isn't a part of that reputation, I don't know what is.
Oh, dear. Looking back towards eSuba. Speaking of the nationalities, actually, an entirely Czech team, so potentially that's helping them with some of these communications. Helping them stay focused together. One of the few teams that's kind of... Yeah?
I'd be curious to see what the communication structure is for a team like Energypot Wizards as well. Obviously, Bulgarian VZZ, one of the main guys we talk about, paired with Croatian mid laner. Like, what language? How are they communicating? It's something that I think we don't necessarily take into account enough, especially in the LEC when we look at teams, because we're fortunate enough to have so many players who have been playing long enough or are veteran enough to all communicate in a shared language like English.
And while I know the immediate meme in the chat is definitely going to be what communication lol, I want to clarify that genuinely their team fighting has been quite good. So there must be solid in the moment communication. Even if the map plays are wrong, that's the part that should be easier to communicate. So interestingly, it's actually the more difficult part. The part where you actually have to coordinate split-second moments that they all seem on board for.
There are no words. It's just vibes, as you mentioned. It's pure vibe-based communication. That's all. That's what we're going for here.
If only we could do the same on cast. We could just sit here and just absorb.
in silence and just feel the vibes. Just put on some lo-fi and just vibe. What I was going to say is, so I was really expecting kind of Energypot Wizards, even after kind of the tumultuous game that they had in previous days, to be the favorites here. But the way that eSuba are responding makes me recognize the situation where if Mouse come out and they're 3-0, if they win our next game, we could have a situation where we have 3 teams tied at 1 and 2. And that battle for second next week becomes an absolute mess. And that's something that I would love to see, because not only do we now have the Balkan Bros trying to climb their way out, we've now got an entirely Czech team rising up as well. And it's just so cool to see some of these smaller regions, these regions who haven't always made it as far in EU Masters, rise up this year and in this tournament.
Yeah, definitely. Specifically, eSuba has been to EU Masters quite a bit. Have generally been the ones representing the Czech Republic. I think the only time they weren't was when AS Trenčín were representing them, which I believe Jejky was on as well. So he's been here even that little bit longer, but you can see that they just want that one good run, that time to get out of groups, like the Balkans, a region that has managed to kind of showcase those few upsets throughout the tournaments. eSuba looking to pull off something similar.
And now Jejky, the man you mentioned. And you can see why they keep bringing him back. 2-1-5 on the Lee Sin, although, right as I said, it of course missed a kick, so maybe not ideal. But now the collapse coming in. Braum flashing forward, just going for the slow.
Well, keeping them on their toes. Keep them on their toes. Yep.
All right, you never know.
I was expecting the flash ultimate, expecting the big engage, but a bit more tentative. Maybe the rest of the team not on board for that, so going to play a little bit more of a poking game. And you have to note, when the crescendum is up for Aphelios, and for those who are quickly losing track of Aphelios' abilities, those are the little turrets. You do see how quickly you can drop them. It's actually the Gravitum stun. So you see eSuba wants to engage, or at least they individually want to engage, but it's just not happening. They have good zoning tools that they're still using.
Oh, good damage coming in from Azir. Bit of extra movement speed. Now the ulti in from the Cassiopeia, but she just gets pushed right back into her team, and that's the MF ult. Braum going the wrong way, baby, and that's what you love to see if you're an Energypot Wizards fan. Mechanical fumbles counting against eSuba in this one. That was not what they needed on the side of eSuba.
Yeah, now you've all 5 members of Wizards still alive. These are the big team fights they're looking for. Yes, part of it is the mechanical misplays on the side of eSuba, but that's also the pressure that you've seen Wizards exerting. You've seen, yes, we're able to zone them out as eSuba, but you can see how tentative they are to go for those engages. They just start flashing forward, start throwing ability after ability, but still just don't pull the trigger quick enough.
And I have so much respect for the way that Energypot Wizards play this fight, because while they are taking a bit of health damage, they're not burning any major cooldowns. They wait until they see that prime opportunity.
Dany doesn't get to move this entire fight. He gets hit with that flash Cassiopeia ult. In fact, he's the only member hit, and they just go, okay, doesn't matter. Gonna just focus out the AD carry, remove the Aphelios, because they don't have enough damage to take us down after that. And that's exactly what happens. The Azir tries to play forward, tries to make the engage happen as the counter, but with no AD carry to back it up in terms of damage, Wizards just have that edge.
And the confidence and execution that you mentioned before just really shining through there. The second they see that opportunity, they fully commit to it. Of course, Rufus, bless him, he's trying to block the Braum or the Ornn ultimate before it comes in, but that just means he's throwing the shield up the wrong way for the incoming MF ultimate, and it's, yeah, it just results in a catastrophic fight. The good news is eSuba have built up enough of a gold lead over the course of the game that they are just even now at this point, but cannot afford another fight like that.
Yeah, especially when the engage as well. You can see they threw out about 3 potential engages, and then it was actually Lukezy who ended up engaging a fight. So just need eSuba a little bit more on board with each other as well.
I just think when Rufus flash forwards for the Q, you should also throw the R and just trust that your team is going to be there.
Yeah, I think that was the call. I'm inclined to agree with it.
Less language communication, more vibe communication is the lesson that we've learned in this game. Feel the vibe from Rufus. Rufus is clearly vibing.
Speaking of, though, outside of vibe communication, they are getting good vision communication down, pushing that vision line forward. Baron is the next focus. Time to move that line forward. They are on a ward. I thought they saw it in their sweeper, but I think they must have just missed it. There's also control ward in Baron, so they haven't perfectly swept this area. They're getting good vision down aggressively, but haven't actually cleared the area well enough to really try force plays around this, which is a good idea, by the way, from eSuba. That's what they should be doing. They still have the potential to go forward. They still have the strong zoning control we talked about with the Azir and with the Lee Sin pressuring. But because they weren't able to clear out the wards effectively enough, Wizards aren't that scared. They know when they've backed off. They walk forward and clear out. All that time they spent putting into aggressive vision ends up not paying off.
And I think the thing that we're recognizing here is, and credit to Energypot Wizards, is recognizing that they do not have vision control over that side of the map and then moving through as a unit. VZZ learning from getting caught out earlier in the game, not going to allow eSuba to set up another one of those vision pockets, pick him off, and win a following fight or take an objective, instead making sure that they have to contest on everything. And with both teams at 2 Drakes and neither team really in pole position to take the Baron here, we are set up for a much more contentious game between these two teams.
Yeah, and I think if you look over to the scaling then, as that's going to start becoming the question from people, who does scale better, I'm leaning towards the Energypot Wizards. You have the Ornn items, you have Cassiopeia, you have massive teamfight engage potential from Jarvan, Thresh, Ornn. I'd be pretty worried going late into this as eSuba, as Lee Sin is known traditionally for falling off, can still make engages happen, but in comparison to Jarvan, just not going to be anywhere near as useful.
Cannot make those engages if he dies. A Cassio now going over the wall. Emperor's Divide coming out a little bit early. MF ult used as well. And a TP now coming in for the side of Energypot Wizards. But Random getting some poke down as well.
There's no Braum shield.
Yeah, they are just going to take down Braum. They will not go for Dany. So that is a pick in the favor of the Energypot Wizards. But in the meantime, Robocop pushing in on the bottom side of the map. So if Wizards are going to make a decision, they need to do it quickly.
I still want to call out that Rufus did point the Braum shield the right way this time. He's learning. They're adapting. We're learning as we go. And he did actually block the MF ult, so does end up being the only person going down. That's actually fine for them. Yes, they lose the tower, but with Robocop pushing in the bot lane, this is a relatively even trade for eSuba. Maybe not their ideal, obviously, but this is manageable for them.
See if they now want to get aggressive here and potentially push in and contest a bit more Baron vision. But it does look like the Energypot Wizards will be backing off. Lee Sin already headed to the bottom side of the map. It looks like they're kind of fishing for this uncontested Ocean Drake as Random starts to clear out the mid lane.
Yeah, interesting from Random as well, who has been struggling that little bit on the Azir. Actually picked a Kali in the previous 2 games of European Masters, tends to lean towards that style of champion, so starting to see maybe there's just a little bit of a lack of comfort on the style. Maybe that's why we're seeing some of those ults go a little wider, but again, as the game's gone on, we've seen better use of the soldiers. It certainly has been caught out less than those. Okay.
Oh, clean use of the Cassio wall. The flash hook coming in from whiteinn will not connect, and Robocop now has to run for the hills, but it's flash traded for flash. And the movement speed of the Aatrox ult will beat the movement speed of the Cassio, and Robocop walks away, and now eSuba are like, okay, we'll take a free objective if you want to commit 3 people into killing our top laner, but can Jarvan get there in time to contest? All eyes on Spooky to try to do something here as klowny steps a bit too far forward, will be able to dash out to safety, and it looks like eSuba do not want to commit for a 50-50.
In the meantime, Lukezy goes, okay, I trusted you guys to stop the Baron. I'm going to pick up the Ocean Dragon and put us on Soul Point there. Ocean Soul being a pretty important one for the way these fights are playing out, considering that eSuba are relying pretty heavily on the fact that they've been poking out before fights have kicked off. Ocean Soul will help remove a lot of that.
Definitely will, and I think just in general, just ludicrously powerful on most compositions, but especially in a game like this. And what concerns me, Tygus, you're already given the scaling advantage over to the side of Energypot Wizards. And they've also executionally just been playing better in these fights, and I think that's nerve-wracking if you're on the side of eSuba. They really have to figure out this coordination and make things work in the fights to come, because there is a world where the Azir Aphelios can shred through a fight, no doubt, but they cannot be caught out by the likes of the Jarvan, by the Ornn, by the Thresh, and that's more pressure than so far eSuba have been able to handle in a lot of these skirmishes.
Yeah, I think right now what they're trying to do is rely on Robocop's pressure. What I'd also like is, again, doing pretty much what Wizards had done in response, which is move together as a unit, get aggressive vision of the Baron, clear out the enemy vision, and you can hold off with the zones. This is something I was talking about. When you have the Crescendum as the Aphelios, you're throwing down those turrets. Massive, massive zoning potential on top of the fact that you have Azir. By the time a fight kicks off, they're already going to be chunked out, and that's what you want. On top of the fact you really have to stop letting Dany get caught out. After that, I think they could actually be set for one of these fights and try to pick themselves up a big objective.
Ooh, vision traps on vision traps on vision traps. This time it's eSuba baiting the trap here. Jejky's in the jungle. Lukezy is not going to be able to get the ultimate down there, and that should be Cassio.
Oh, it doesn't matter though.
Damage output. Burning through, trying to sidestep, fishing, trying to get away from the Darkened Blade, trying to finish off Jejky. Goes golden, buys a bit more time. Flag and Drag's going to come out. It's not going to matter. Lukezy's still alive for now. More than enough healing. Clips down on the Lantern. My God, the swag on this mid laner. What can't Croatian mids do? He lives in an unsurvivable situation, and now the fight. This is it. Oh no, eSuba, we wanted to give you the benefit of the doubt, but there it is. Just absolutely outplayed.
That's 3 members down, and they're now going to chase down 2 more. Here's Rufus, here's Dany. It doesn't matter, they're just going to turn, focus this Baron. You don't need any more kills, you have the control.
Lukezy is just going to be able to shred through this one. They're taking their time, though, they're waiting. Maybe a heroic moment from Dany and Rufus, but with the weapons Dany currently has, he is not going to deal a lot of damage with the ultimate. Throwing the turret over the wall, though, trying to zone, hoping maybe to get a steal, but pretty easy pickup for the side of Energypot Wizards, and now they are firmly in control of this game.
And we have to take it back, because I mean, there was a time where eSuba were the ones completely in the driver's seat, but plays like this from Lukezy is what has brought them back. So, throws down, huge amount of damage, and yes, the ultimate doesn't get the stun. It doesn't matter, because Lukezy just has so much more damage they can deal with. Robocop goes to finish him off. A great Lantern gets Lukezy out as well as the heal from VZZ on the way out, just for good measure. And from there, the fight is the Wizards. This is again the coordination we were crediting not only Wizards, but the entire Balkan scene for. But here comes Jejky.
Jejky, no! He fished for the play, but what is it going to turn into? What will it amount to? It looks like the rest of the team is just backing off. Redemption comes down to try to reset the fight. klowny off to the side. Waiting on the Ornn. Wants to see if eSuba are going to commit anything else, and it looks like they won't. So everyone's going to walk away safe and sound. And a bit of a messy exchange there, but GA passive has been given up by the side of eSuba.
But as the game's going forward, the Lee Sin pick, even just the way Wizards are moving, it's making Jejky look shaky, and that's the real worry for them. They can't find the engages. Their carry can't really heavily carry them through, and their other options, their scaling options, and the Aphelios, the Azir Aphelios is getting burst out every fight, and Azir just isn't finding any room.
And they just cannot set up, the front-to-back team fights that we so often want to see, where you talk about all the zoning potential of an Azir and Aphelios, and in theory, Cassio shouldn't be able to run through that much damage to hit your backline, but instead they just keep fighting her on a side lane, going for these picks, trying to find those style opportunities instead of going for a larger team fight. And I understand why. You don't want a team fight straight into an Ornn, but it's clearly not working. And now the pressure's on eSuba to adapt because Energypot Wizards are just steadily pushing their advantage, growing this gold lead. Now almost 4K in their favor, and soul point set up is 30 seconds until the dragon spawns.
And they've already pushed aggressive vision as well, but here comes Lukezy looking for another.
Rufus, ulti now coming out, but he's been caught out. He can't dash back to safety, nothing left there. It's a man advantage over to the side of Energypot Wizards. Can just shift their attention, but still have a Baron buff. May instead want to focus on the mid lane, the dash in from Spooky, the ult coming in as well. Dany has been locked out and isolated, but they don't have the damage follow-up right now. Thresh coming in, once again, saving the day. whiteinn getting things kicked off, but Lukezy the man you have to watch. Zanya just to make sure he can't get kicked back into his team. Now stepping forward, a little bit of poke, but needs the Twin Fangs to land the more reliable damage. And eSuba holding on for now, but most likely will have to give up the Ocean Soul.
Yeah, they are missing 2 members for this, and Wizards still have plenty of re-engage opportunities. If they wanted to steal, this will be entirely on Jejky, but it looks like, yeah, they've given up. I don't see the possibility there. It would be extremely difficult. I think Wizards would probably just kill another member for that. Ocean Soul, we said, cancelling out a lot of the poke that eSuba had been relying on to make some of these fights work. But honestly, it's been a long time since they have made a fight work, and Wizards now looking to get more control over this map, push their vision line further. There's no objectives up they need. As Baron does just wear off on them, they should be able to push up and engage heavily if they want to.
I mean, it's a 7-3-5 Cassio. She has Ocean Soul. She has an Elixir. There is no healing reduction on the enemy team. This is a Lukezy montage waiting to happen. And I think that has to be concerning. So I'm not surprised to see eSuba once again setting up to try to find this kill. I also won't be surprised when it turns against them and Lukezy kills literally everyone because Rufus going down once again. Lukezy adds another name to his list here. He's even got the Knight's Vow to back him up. Screw MF, she doesn't need it. Clearly Lukezy's the carry, and things are going from bad to worse.
Yeah, it looks like they're just going to, as we said, push straight down. I was expecting Spooky to maybe have to go for a Jarvan engage through onto the Azir. We've seen a lot of those onto the Aphelios as well. But so far, hasn't even needed that. Just picks off Rufus so quickly. They're going to be able to push right down up to the inhib tower here, and there's a real lack of wave clear. You're going to need to get Azir in there soon.
And the emote spam, sadly, will not make Jejky's life easier in terms of finding a way onto the back line. It's a slow, steady push forward. Team kept relatively healthy as the Ocean Soul starts to really pay off here. Dany can throw the ultimate down. The GA immediately going to get procced, and now Energy Wizards are set to win the fight. Jejky tries to go on the backside. He gets the kick through onto Cassio, but it doesn't look like it's going to be enough to push back from Azir. Buys a bit more time for the rest of the team, and that means they are going to be able to even it up. 1-1 so far, the kill score. Random still dealing out good damage. Dany's still alive with the help of that GA, but luckily Energypot Wizards, they're just going to take the inhibitor, they're going to back off, they respect the 1-for-1, and they still come out with an advantage.
I think they'll be pretty happy with that. They get the inhib, even if they end up just going for the 1-for-1, they might have won more kills off the back. You also pop the GA off Dany, who is very, very vulnerable on this Aphelios. You can see why they wanted to take away the Aphelios Thresh. Thresh being something that can maybe deny some of these really heavy engages. But prioritizing the Thresh means that you just don't have the disengage available for Aphelios when you send Jarvan straight through.
Yeah, and additionally, I just feel like the Thresh pick, first pick at the time when I saw Aphelios and Azir given up, I was really a doubter, but as we see these late game fights play out, especially because eSuba picked Lee Sin into that Thresh, it just feels like unless Cassio flashes into his team, Jejky never gets to kick a carry in any of these fights. That's
the real struggle, and on top of that, you've seen Lukezy run forward, start removing people, and then you just pop the Zanyas anytime Lee Sin goes to the aggressive play. Then Lee Sin's use most of the mobility, you can respond quite quickly, as Wizards have consistently done, and find those team fights that you are very quickly becoming known for.
I love it. Always take team fighting as a strength of the teams. I think as we've learned from watching teams like G2, like Fnatic start to take over more and more, the ability to skirmish and fight, that coordination is something we love to see in Europe. Lukezy now just running down Robocop, kind of this inevitable source of damage that demands either a fight be started or ESB just concede the next major objective.
See, they're actually going to force the engage here, running forward.
Lukezy trying to go back, he's going to get the kick through, but no, they managed to lock the Cassio in the midst of the entire team. The Braum blocking it out. Lukezy managed to get a decent ultimate. They've locked up Aphelios on the backside. Rufus is just barely alive, and he manages to dash out to safety. Maybe Random can make it happen. VZZ finds the shutdown. This is the moment that they were waiting for, but klowny is not going to let it happen. Random dashes out off to the side. Oh
Dany, though.
My God, eSuba, they find the fight. The triple kill from Random, redemption for the earlier ults, and now they can set their sights on that Baron.
And the reason people say Lee Sin doesn't scale is it becomes so hard to find a kick in the center of these stacked teams, but managing to get it just before Lukezy can respond with the Zhonya's as well. By the time he Zhonya's, he's in the center of the team at 20% health. Gets a good response with the ultimate, but at that point it was eSuba dictating the fight. Random able to start chunking through people, and this should be the Baron over to eSuba. Spooky's in the area.
Oh, Spooky.
There's no Jejky either. I actually missed that, so there's going to be no jungler to respond to it here. No vision,
Spooky. Though. Oh, no, it's too fast. He probably is doing the math in his head, and he's just a little bit off. Won't be able to get it, even without the smite. But at the end of the day, it does just start to even things up. Ocean Soul for Energypot Wizards on top of that inhibitor are the big advantages that they have right now, but the gold getting closer and closer, and the Baron now in favor of eSuba.
Yeah, and with that Nexus Tower having fallen during all that as well, you have to think that if Wizards manage to turn it around, manage to find that one more fight, even with the Baron having gone down, they should just be able to end it.
I didn't think this was going to happen, Tyg. I saw the team fight coordination from ESB. I saw it kind of, like, peter off after we got out of the early game. I didn't think they had it in them, but there you go. When the pressure's on, Jejky finds his moment. He gets the kick, the fight kicks off, and Random shows up. He lands a clutch Azir ult, and now we got a game on our hands. Now we're in another situation where we might get a 50-minute slugfest, and I am all about it.
Okay, I think we do see that potential, specifically looking at this Elder Dragon, though. That could be the thing to kill the slugfest very quickly in its tracks. You could have said
Definitely
that
true.
in the Fnatic Wizards game, I'm aware, but I believe even more so today that the way it will play out. Yes,
Not
I
the
think
rule.
so.
Normally that is a game-ending buff. We'll have to see this time around if we start to change what people think about the Elder Dragon buff.
Not if
But
Wizards don't
Masters
contest
has
it,
to
though.
show
Where are you
us.
going, boys? Get back in there. They have the Warden it, but they're playing it back. They're afraid of eSuba going for another aggressive pick. They spot Lee Sin over there. Okay, they're a little less scared. Time to run forward. Vision Ward cuts them off.
Oh, Spooky. If they steal this dragon, the game is instantly over. 4K getting lower. They're going to go for the 50-50. Why would they do this? Lee Sin gets it. It's exactly what they need to kick things off. Rufus buying a bit more time. The disengage now comes out. Energypot Wizards won. Nothing to do with that fight. And they will walk away with their lives. Lukezy, as highlighted by our observers, does not even use the TP. Knows that they were just fishing for that steal.
Questions I raise. That was not a good call. That was a bad call. We're saying that was. You could have contested that. Their pick isn't that scary. They used absolutely everything to get you the last time, just about managing to do it. I think that was played too scared, but you know what? eSuba, they use that pressure. They picked themselves up the Elder Dragon. They're running forward with it. They want this first win of European Masters.
Oh, I'm ready. Make it a tie at the bottom of the standings. Come on. Drag them down with you, eSuba. Keep those dreams alive. Don't want to have that 0-3 first week. This is, of course, the final game that both these teams are playing, and eSuba now barreling into the base, chopping down at least one of these inhibitors.
Waiting for them to continue to cut down here. They pick up one inhib, and you'd see Wizards do not want to fight while the Elder Dragon's up.
Braum shield's down. eSuba know this. They're backing off. They're not standing forward to contest anything right now, waiting for that cooldown to be up and available once more, knowing that it can be the difference between life and death in one of these late game fights.
Still waiting here. The poke comes through. Robocop goes over the wall. Little bit of damage here and there. Good hook.
It's going to be big. Jejky caught out and picked off because he's going to grab one. The team now has time to retreat, though. They still have the buffs backing them up. Elder means that it's not ideal to force a fight at this stage, but once again, Energypot Wizards find a way back. They hold on, they've weathered the storm, and now they can look to make some plays of their own.
whiteinn, as it was looking more and more dire for Wizards, drags them back in once again. Oh dear, Dracos. This was not...
We talked about this game. This is not what we talked about, Ty.
No.
This is not at all what we talked about.
But, like, you watch yesterday's and you go, okay, you know what? They've learned. It's fine.
Yes.
They know what to do. They just need to use their advantages. But it's as if they just went from that game straight into this one. No learning whatsoever.
Yep.
But you know
Stay
what?
true to your identity. I respect it.
They have the Ocean Soul. They're still very strong. The Elder Dragon's gonna die away now. They weathered the storm that they themselves created.
Yeah, true.
And are now in this position once again where they can try push forward. I believe them to have the scaling advantage, but they're making me question myself.
And we have a champion in the game with probably the most raw stats possible outside of the Veigar, Sennas, and Naxxuses of the world, which is going to be a 6-item Cassio with an Ornn upgrade. Probably the most raw AP you can get on any champion that doesn't have infinite scaling. So we'll have to see what Lukezy can do in the fights to come. But eSuba are gaining more and more confidence here and just going to continue to press down the mid lane.
Are you going to allow them to run up your mid lane? I think there's no inhib there, guys. You're going to have to back and deal with that. Okay, Lukezy's back there. Ornn's getting back as well. Okay, I mean, that's a free push forward, though. They get full control of that topside jungle. They can establish vision there. Full control as this Baron is preparing to spawn.
And Ty, the thing that we gave eSuba credit for was being kind of the more intelligent team when it came to macro rotations.
Yes.
And we're at a point late in the game where, yes, teamfight coordination is everything, but if you put your opponent in a scenario where they have to pick an option, defending their base, contesting a Baron like that, the smarter team can just win out without bloodshed. We've seen crazy backdoors across so many different leagues when teams have been smart enough just to play the map better.
And you saw that earlier with the Elder Dragon take. It was just eSuba playing the map better. They established full vision. They put down the control ward as they were doing it. And you could see Wizards just weren't in a position to get there in time. You're at that late game stage. Objectives fall extremely fast, so if you're behind that call, you're not going to be the ones getting there.
A bit of poke coming down here. Those Aphelios turrets, as you mentioned, starting to hurt more and more as he gets more items under his belt on the side of Dany. But have to be careful. Don't know how I feel about squaring off in the mid lane.
Oh boy.
But it's old-fashioned guns out at dawn. 10 paces away from each other, get the fight kicked off.
Well, they have been facing backwards to each other a lot, so that's fair. Okay, here's the MF ult opening.
Dany caught out. Hook will not connect. Rufus trying to get as much space as he can for the rest of the team to stop this fight from happening, but Spooky right into the back line. Dany's still alive for now, but has to watch out for Lukezy, because there he is, but the cleanse, the quick QSS comes out to buy a bit more time.
Random though.
Staring each other in the face. Random flashing over the wall. He's still alive. The body block coming in for Braum. They're now on the retreat. Oh, but MF is just so fast. The slow's coming in as well. eSuba, have they thrown away the game here? Robo's going to just buy as much time as he possibly can. Jejky and the rest of the team now on the retreat, but everyone's going to be able to get back to the fountain and heal up.
Well played from eSuba to actually manage to disengage that. It was a good Laee kick, getting Dany out of situations that have been in the past so dire for them. See now, they have full vision control over the Baron. Nothing in there for eSuba, but Jejky is now on the side. They threw a ward in. Has the potential for the steal.
Goes in. Not going to be able to get it. Jejky does manage to flash out to safety. Drags the double up as well, half-healthing Dany, but it does mean that the Baron is now gone. Baron and Dragon Soul. Is it enough? Energypot Wizards. Is the pot of energy finally full? Is this the moment where you close out, or can eSuba stay in it?
Elder and 20. Push up that mid lane. Go straight there. Otherwise, eSuba get it, guys.
Step-by-step guides on how to win games by Tig. There it is.
You know, sometimes you're already at the point in the guide where it should be obvious. So we skip to there. Contest the dragon. Right. Here we are. Here it is.
Look on a Jejky, reactivates the Sonic Wave. This is it. This is the arena. This is the final fight. Now the downside is if eSuba can't find this one, Random has now been locked down. He manages to push the entire team back, but no, the MF ult did so clutch. Now it's all eyes on Dany. How much damage can he actually throw down for now? He's just auto-attacking the Ornn. He's getting absolutely nothing done. klowny is simply too tanky, and there's nothing left. Energypot Wizards can just run down the rest of the team. Dany, the Braum alive. Maybe they wait for a heroic moment. Maybe, just maybe, they can find an opportunity, but it should be impossible.
And they're TPing in for it. They're going for the end. This is the call. It's a split call, though, as Spooky stays on the Elder Dragon. It's going to be 3 running for the base while the rest just stop recalls. Okay, Wizards, I'm on board.
They're going for it. They're buying a bit more time. They split off 3 members. They've got their 3 tankiest members just running away, just buying space. Meanwhile, we have to keep our eyes on the mid lane as the base is being broken slowly but surely. And you're absolutely right. Energypot Wizards, it might not be normal, but at the end of a day, a win is a win. And they're going to find it. Jejky might get a little bit to pad the scoreline, but it's Wizards moving up to 2-1.
Whew. That was... The call was correct at the end of the day. They saved it. Steadily, slowly. They had a lot of learning time in there, but they made it work. And honestly, the Wizards push ahead of the UK seed now by going up ahead. It's Fnatic.
Which is important, because now at worst, they've secured second. And at best, they've engaged in a 3-way tie for first, which is huge, which I think is huge for the region and huge for the team. And quite frankly, I would cast a best of 5 of that. That was hype. Like, say what you want about anything else, but that was most certainly a hype game.
I mean, I'd do it if I'm charging hourly. But there you go.
Okay, I think that's perfect. We'll leave it there. Fantastic game to close it out. Congrats again to the Energypot Wizards. We're going to go to a quick break, and when we return, we'll break down more of the insanity that was that game.
Vous comprenez maintenant pourquoi j'ai créé la Magic? En un clip, vous devenez Magic.
La monture avec ses 2 clips pour 149 €.
C'est Magic.
Dispositif médical.
This is my creed. The boots that make me faster. The items that make me stronger. The potions that I drink. I get the best to be more powerful, so my champion rises to the top. But all this leveling up means nothing if I don't level up myself. It's the healthy potions I drink in real life that make me stronger. Because you can only rule the game when you realize you are your most important champion. To play like a pro, eat like a pro.
Hello, welcome back to European Masters 2020 Spring. Oh, I'm muted.
I'm afraid you've got yourself muted there, Dracos.
Well, I was muted for you. The world could hear me. We had an awkward moment.
Nice.
It's fine.
That's
There's
okay.
too many programs. What I was going to say, to the surprise of probably not you or anyone at home, was welcome back. It's European Masters 2020. It's spring. I'm Dracos. This is Celtic Tiger with me. And we just witnessed a game of League of Legends. I think it's safe to say it most certainly was. But how did you feel about that game of League of Legends, Mr. Tiger?
What was the vibe, you might say?
what
was good.
the vibe?
Yes, it was entertaining. It was funny, right? There was points where you think as a spectator, you can kind of look at it and go, okay, these are the clear moves you'd expect them to make. This is the way you'd kind of play the game out in a more standard fashion. You push up the vision line, you play around that. Instead, they just kind of ran at each other a lot. And eventually this culminated in specific team fights where often it was Wizards who ended up doing slightly better. So look at this early fight as well. This is after so many engages have been attempted by eSuba, but it was in the end Wizards who made that first call, who made that quick jump in and started off. Lukezy specifically helping hard carry this game on the Cassiopeia.
I mean, absolutely the MVP of this game, and especially when you look back on this play. I thought he was most certainly dead. And what I've learned are two things. One, I clearly do not understand exactly how much damage Cassio does, and clearly eSuba don't either, because this was absolutely disgusting, and Robocop, despite his best efforts, just could not finish off that kill.
Yeah, I think, again, some shout-outs to eSuba members as well. I think Jejky did quite well. Robocop as well, consistently doing good in the Aatrox. It's just not enough when, as a team, Wizards are making those consistently better mechanical plays in the fights. So looking at this as well, this is one of the strengths of the comps. This is what we talked about when we were saying that they scaled better. You can just hard engage onto this Azir, onto the Aphelios, in this case choosing the Azir as the Jarvan, and he's just completely locked out, MF ult through that, and it's just gone.
Yeah, and that's the setup that we saw, Energypot Wizards fishing for a lot of games. And when you get this late in the game, it only takes one right move like that to instantly end it in your favor. The TP obviously coming out here. And I love this final play where we have Spooky kind of running forward and just making sure that no one can return to base. Klowny as well, just denying, disrupting, buying as much time as humanly possible. Eventually, Jejky's going to kill someone here, but at that point, the Nexus already basically dead. And now we could be seeing a three-way tie for first in our next game, Tig, or we could be seeing Mouse Esports solo dominating the group, Fnatic Rising permanently stuck in third place, and Energypot Wizards clear control of second.
Now, there's a part of my sadism for the UK scene that wants me to see Fnatic Rising fall here. Also, the analyst did me, because genuinely I do think Mouse Sports have looked a little stronger. But yeah, the Irish thing is probably hitting a little bit stronger there. But as an analyst, look at the game. Mouse Sports genuinely have looked that bit stronger. Fnatic Rising even managed to drop to Energypot Wizards, and we've seen some of the dodgy map calls, we'll just call them as they are, from Energypot Wizards. Fnatic still weren't able to respond to that. They went for an early aggressive pick. They tried to make it work. It started off okay. They were making some of those aggressive plays towards the bot lane, and then it just started falling apart. The team fights weren't as coordinated. The calls weren't as coordinated. And it was Energypot Wizards who managed to dismantle them and pull ahead as the game scaled on.
Yeah, and we'll have to see if, Energypot Wizards may not have learned as much from that performance as we hoped. We'll have to hope that Fnatic Rising have learned a little bit more. That game, when we return, don't go anywhere. It's just going to be a quick break.